You ever have one of those moments where you think, nah, this can't be real life, right? Well, let me tell you about the morning I topped the hill on my own land and saw a goddamn playground glinting in the sun like a big plastic middle finger from the suburbs. Yeah, that happened. And if you're shaking your head thinking, no way, trust me, I lived it, and I'm still not sure whether to laugh or rage. See, I just dragged myself home from a cattle equipment expo down in Austin. 3 weeks, too many cheap motels, and just my old friend Tom keeping eyes on the ranch. 5,000 acres of fences, cattle, wild scrub, and the only thing I wanted was a mug of hot coffee and a minute to breathe. But what I got, instead, was a full-blown HOA invasion. A neatly landscaped community park, benches painted blinding white, walking paths curling right through my east pasture, even a playground set that looked like it was ripped straight from a real estate brochure. No joke, fresh mulch underfoot, manicured paths where my cows used to graze, and a shiny sign. Willow Ridge Community Park, residents only. You know what I mean? That sort of sign makes your blood boil even before the caffeine kicks in. Willow Ridge. Yeah, that HOA nightmare that had been creeping toward my fence line for 5 years, run by the queen of clipboards, Karen Morton. The woman once tried to lecture me about my pine trees throwing shade on her precious vinyl palaces. If she hated shade so much, maybe she should have moved to Phoenix. I wandered further, boots sinking in new turf, wondering if I'd wandered into some parallel universe. Then I spot a guy, polo shirt, clipboard, barking orders, setting up solar path lights with a couple of teenagers. I ask, "You boys know where you are?" He doesn't even flinch, just says, "Willow Ridge Park, Phase 2. I say, "Wrong. This is Westfield Ranch. Private property." Guy just blinks, waves some site plan, says the HOA board approved everything. I ask if he's ever heard of a land deed before drilling holes in someone else's pasture, and he starts mumbling about subcontractors and GPS coordinates. So I tell him to pack it in and leave, but the look he gives me says, "Fat chance, cowboy." Let me back up a sec. When you own land in Texas, you never assume people respect boundaries. But this wasn't just some lost hiker or a fence post gone missing. This was deliberate. Like someone thought, he won't notice, 5,000 acres. What's a few playground swings? So I drove straight to the county recorder's office, grabbed my deed, GIS overlays, everything. No easements, no mystery transfers, no HOA loopholes. My family's name, clear as day. But all the proof in the world doesn't matter when the other side isn't playing by the rules. I emailed, called, marched into their office in a strip mall next to a tanning salon. Got stonewalled by a 20-year-old receptionist who told me to put it in writing. So I did. Weeks passed. The playground stayed. More kids showed up, more wood chips got dumped. No fences, no apologies. Every day, the trespassers grew bolder, like I was invisible. I tried being patient, but when a guy with a pressure washer started blasting my pasture, something snapped. I wasn't about to let myself get steamrolled, so I hauled out my old cattle panels, the ones from my rodeo days, and ringed the park in a steel barricade. Hung up a fresh sign, "Private property, trespassers will be prosecuted." Didn't even make it to noon before some stroller mom nudged a panel aside. They were testing me, plain and simple. The sheriff said it was civil, not criminal. Until someone gets hurt, I muttered. But Officer Bergman, old army buddy, just shook his head and told me to lawyer up. He was right. By that afternoon, Tom called, said there was a crowd by the playground, some lady filming my sign with her phone, mouthing off about public safety and community amenities. When I told her she was trespassing, she just recorded me, muttering about viral videos and next-door posts. That night, I watched my trail cam footage, caught 2 HOA board members plotting by the jungle gym, saying, "Just move the fence at night. He'll give up once residents complain." Yeah, they didn't know me. I doubled down, motion lights, more signs, camera footage everywhere. Next day, I get a parchment letter from Willow Ridge HOA, all gold seals and threats. Remove the fence or face legal escalation. I scrawled across it and read, "This is private land." Then I stapled copies to every fence post. But the thing about bullies? They never back down easy. Next day, 2 moms tore my sign down, waltzed their kids through the park, with a little bird for the security camera. Soon as the sheriff saw the footage, he sighed. "You're in the right, John. But these people are used to getting their way." That's when I called Rick Calhoun, property rights lawyer, former Army JAG. The kind of guy who wears beyond-the-lookout ties and isn't afraid to stare down a whole room. He walked the boundary with me, muttering legalese, shaking his head. This isn't gray, it's black and white. Trespass, unauthorized construction, maybe fraud. He sent a cease and desist, had the sheriff stamp a copy. 3 days later, the HOA fired back, a stack of zoning maps, forged forms, and, get this, a signature that looked like a kid's first attempt at cursive, supposedly mine. Rick spotted the bad forgery, called it criminal, and we added fraud to our suit. But the real smoking gun came in an anonymous envelope, screenshots of Karen Morton herself emailing the board. If we move quickly, he won't notice. It's mostly empty scrub. Yeah, that's intent. We handed everything to the press, a local news reporter hungry for drama. Next thing I know, my inbox is flooded. Folks offering to testify, sharing their own HOA war stories. Even a land surveyor offering his services pro bono, just to stick it to those HOA bastards. Not everyone was cheering. Willow Ridge's Facebook exploded. Blurry photos of me called the park destroyer, mailboxes stuffed with mulch, garbage bags dumped on my drive. One night, I caught a teenager trying to yank my camera off the post. Never pressed charges, just kept documenting every single thing. Then came the cut fence, bolt cutters, swing set, chains still swaying. Rick told me to hold steady. I buried metal posts, installed more sensors. This wasn't trespass anymore. It was war. Court day, press shirt, thumb drive full of evidence, even a video of a guy in flip-flops, sipping a mimosa, walking his labradoodle past my sign. The judge, a crusty old-timer, wasn't impressed by HOA theatrics. Rick laid out the case. Deeds, photos, forged documents, the whole mess. Karen's team spun fairy tales about historical access, but the judge cut them off. Implied consent doesn't beat a deed, especially with forged paperwork. He ordered an immediate halt, threatened trespass arrests. But people don't quit. As I'm locking my gate, a mom pulls up, tears in her eyes, yelling about her kid with sensory issues who needed the park. I told her, I didn't build it. Your HOA did, on my land. She just drove off. Flyers went up. John Westfield is destroying our children's park. Online mobs called me everything from land hog to dog hater to, don't ask, hope killer. There were protests at my gate, folks leaving busted swings and lawn chairs like some weird landfill statement. But then, twist, an email from Danielle, Willow Ridge's treasurer. She'd voted against the park, warned about boundaries, got bulldozed by Karen and her crew. She handed over meeting notes, budget shuffles, permit falsifications, the whole secret playbook. Rick nearly wept with joy. We added conspiracy to our case. Karen fired back with a newsletter calling me a land baron, with a campaign of hate. That made me laugh. 2 tractors, a goat named Cletus, and suddenly I'm the king of Texas? Please. Then came the fire. One of my old sheds torched at 3 a.m. Caught on camera, 2 teens with a gas can. The sheriff recognized the kid, Willow Ridge parents, of course. I didn't press criminal charges, but sued for damages. Karen blamed my old wiring. I posted the footage. The whole county saw, and it kept coming. Landscaping crews showing up, just following orders. I pressed charges for vandalism. Karen rolled up, hissing, "You think your lawsuits scare me?" I just stared her down, told her, "You built on my land, forged papers, encouraged arson. You should be scared of the system." Rick filed for demolition. Karen countersued for emotional distress. Rick nearly fell out of his chair laughing. Then, final blow. Court ordered the park demolished. Deputies and contractors did it clean, no drama. Karen was nowhere to be seen, but the residents showed up, some filming, some crying over plastic turtles. When the media came, I dropped every document online, timelines, videos, the whistleblower files. The page went viral. Danielle leaked more emails. Turns out the HOA had used reserve funds, lied to residents, and ignored every warning. Willow Ridge erupted. Petition for Karen's removal passed with 75% of signatures. Karen tried to stonewall. Rick threatened depositions. That Friday, she was out. Danielle became interim president. Her first move, a public apology to me and the whole community. Live TV handshake. Awkward, but honest. But it wasn't over. One more day in court for damages. Karen's new lawyers looked pale as ghosts, and the judge, barely raising an eyebrow, ruled full damages. Karen personally liable for the forgery and fraud. HOA on the hook for $2.4 million. I didn't celebrate, just felt the weight roll off my chest. Karen moved out of Willow Ridge. Fast sale, no goodbye. The HOA opened its books. Danielle reformed the bylaws, mandated transparency, all the things that could have saved them millions if they'd just listened. Me? I rebuilt my fence, fixed the fire damage, and used the rest to start a scholarship for local kids. Land stewardship, agriculture, law. Cletus kept screaming at possums. The grass grew wild where the playground stood. No benches, no signs, just earth, just silence. And maybe that's how it should end, a quiet stretch of Texas dirt, mine again. Folks call me the guy who beat the HOA. Sometimes I laugh. Sometimes I just nod. But here's the thing. When you trust bullies with a clipboard and nobody says no, you get this mess. The lesson? Guard your line, speak up, and don't ever assume a quiet rancher won't fight back. So what do you think? Was I right to hold my ground? Or should I have caved for the good of the community? Drop your thoughts below. Tell me if you've ever had your own run-in with an HOA or a land battle. Let's hear it. Where's the line between neighborly and nosy, justice and just plain stubborn?